All right, let's hop right into it. How you doing today?
I'm doing really well today. Thanks for asking. Always happy to chat. Let me know if there's anything else on your mind.
Yeah, let's talk about this one. We're gonna tie a few topics into one scenario. So, for starters, let's talk about these platforms. Well, I'm gonna give a situation. Well, I'm gonna give a couple of lines and say, all right, well, what do you think of this? So, users keep, or content creators keep platforms alive, right? But these platforms are used to spread brand awareness. But if the platforms aren't paying the content creators and they don't create content, the platform will start to die off. Like, what do you think of that?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, and it's a pretty real dynamic. I mean, absolutely, content creators are kind of the lifeblood of any platform. They're the ones making all the material that keeps users coming back, that spreads brand awareness, that keeps the whole ecosystem lively. And you're right, if the platform isn't rewarding them, whether that's financially or with other kinds of incentives, then creators might just walk away. And if they stop creating, the platform can definitely lose its energy and start to fade. So it's kind of a symbiotic relationship. Platforms need creators just as much as creators need platforms, and if that balance isn't there, things can definitely go downhill.
So, with that being said, now we tied the Web3 aspect into it, and now the Web3, they just give content creators the ability to monetize themselves without having to go, just, because you got to do a lot of numbers on platforms for them to recognize you or pay you or even want to do anything, remotely with you. So now let's tie this Web3 aspect into it. And so, with the help of Web3, content creators can monetize themselves um, in a different way. Maybe it's easier for them. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's faster. Maybe it's slower. I'm not sure. But at the end of the day, the Web3 provides an avenue for content creators to monetize themselves, like with the blockchain and so on and so forth, and intertwining like the internet and the platforms. And because a content creator can monetize themselves with a t-shirt, but that's not Web3. A t-shirt is not Web3. Now you can have a Web3 message on a t-shirt, but it's not the same. So can you speculate on that for me, and then we'll just jump down the rabbit hole some more?
Absolutely, let's dive into that. So, when you bring Web3 into the picture, you're really opening up a whole new toolkit for creators. Instead of relying on the old school platforms to pay them out only after they hit a certain threshold of views or subscribers, Web3 lets them kind of take control of their own monetization. They can use blockchain tools like NFTs, token gated content, or direct fan support through crypto, and that means they can build their own communities and get paid more directly by the people who love their content. So yeah, it can be a lot more flexible and potentially a bit more empowering. Of course, it's not always instantly easier. There's a learning curve, and not every creator is gonna jump on the bandwagon overnight. But it does open up new possibilities. And like you said, a t-shirt is just a t-shirt, but if you're tying it into a Web3 ecosystem, like if owning that t-shirt gives you access to certain exclusive content or a token-gated event, then it becomes part of that Web3 model. So yeah, it's a whole new rabbit hole to go down, and it's definitely changing the way creators can think about making a living.
All right, so granted, the picture we just painted, I'm not going to steer too far away, but let's just bear with me. So cell phones are worth more than TVs because they create more ease of access to content consumption. So like, an 80-foot TV will be worth like $700, but the new iPhone will be worth like $1,500. And so now we tie like the platforms, the content creation, content consumption, and the Web3 aspect, because Web3 is geared for cell phones. Now you can still consume Web3 content on a TV, but you can't open up a MetaMask wallet and type in a seed phrase and all that shit in a TV. At least right now you can't. Maybe in a few years you can, but now, granted, that's that sentence I just said, or those few sentences. Now, combine that with what I said earlier, and then hypothesize like, you know, um, like the building aspect for a content creator. Granted, like he knows or she knows these things, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's tie it all together. So basically what we're looking at is a landscape where the content creator understands that cell phones are kind of the ultimate access point. They're more valuable because everyone carries one, everyone uses them, and they're the main gateway to consuming content and interacting with Web3 tools like MetaMask and all that stuff. TVs are great for watching, but they're not really built for that kind of hands-on Web3 interaction, at least not yet. So for a content creator who knows all this, they can really focus on building their brand around mobile-first experiences. They can create Web3 content that's easy to engage with on a phone, maybe use NFTs or token-gated communities that people can access right from their mobile devices, and really lean into that idea that their audience is mostly going to be on a phone. So they're kind of future-proofing themselves by focusing on where the tech is heading, and as Web3 tools get more integrated into mobile, they're right there at the forefront. So it's kind of like combining all those pieces, platforms, Web3, and mobile-first content, and making a strategy out of it that really positions them to thrive.
Facts. That's crazy, right? Just the ease of access to concept consumption through a cell phone compared to TV is crazy, bro. Because you know you got the iTunes or the Apple Market or the iTunes Store, whatever it's called. Then you got like the Google Play Store, and you can just go on there and download apps. So if a Web3 content creator creating an app, they could just, you know, put it on one of those platforms, and then their community could download the app and just engage with it on the cell phone, like on the go. So, you know, they could be on the train, the bus, possibly an airplane, at school, on the beach, anywhere, you know, anywhere. As long as you got internet connection, like you're good for anybody to really interact with your brand. Like compared to like a TV, like, you know, for TV, usually you're at home. And then in some countries, like a TV is considered like a luxury item, similar to a computer. Like I know personally here in Thailand, not a lot of people have computers. Like mostly people have cell phones or tablets because a computer, like for one, it requires like a huge desk. You got the monitor, the tower, keyboard, mouse. Like some people would just rather buy a cell phone and take it with them everywhere. So like, you know, depending on where you're at, a TV or a computer is considered a luxury item. So if you can just create something on a platform that everyone has, which is a cell phone, like everybody in the world pretty much has a cell phone. Not everybody in the world has a computer or a TV. So can you just double down on that?
Yeah, for sure. And I think you put it perfectly. It's really all about meeting people where they are, and where they are is on their phones. Like you said, you can be on a train, you can be on a beach, you can be anywhere as long as you have an internet connection and you can interact with content, you can interact with Web3 apps, and you can do it all on your phone. And you're right, in a lot of places, a TV or a computer is kind of a luxury item, and a phone is the default. So if you're a content creator and you want to reach the widest possible audience and make it as easy as possible for them to jump in, you're going to focus on mobile. And with Web3, that's even more true because a lot of these wallets and these tools are mobile first, or at least really easy to use on mobile. So doubling down on that, it's basically about recognizing that the phone is the gateway to everything. And if you build your strategy around that, you're just going to reach more people and make it a lot easier for them to be part of what you're doing. So yeah, it's a pretty cool concept and definitely a big shift in how content creators can think about reaching their audience.
All right, so now that we, you know, got an understanding of that, let's take it back to these platforms, right? So most platforms, you're able to consume the content through a mobile phone. You know, there's not really, I mean, unless you have like a TV that has a browser, and then you can use the browser. And you know, even with some of the new gaming systems, like I don't even think PS5 has a browser, but the PS3 had a browser. So in some situations, they don't even want you to use, you know, those kind of, I guess, like they don't want you to use those kind of, that kind of software, or that kind of program, or that kind of whatever on certain devices. You know, they want it, you know, on this device you do this, on that device you do that, you know. So like there's not a Facebook app that you can just download on every TV, but there's a Facebook app you can download on every mobile device. And then more than likely every mobile device has an Internet Explorer where you can just go facebook.com and you can still scroll Facebook. and then not every device or piece of technology has a browser where you can just go www.facebook.com, you know. So these platforms are really trying to gear everything in a mobile aspect. I mean, that's just my opinion, you know. So now we just take it back to you know, using these platforms to spread brand awareness, and the content creators keeping these platforms alive. So I don't know, it's crazy. Like, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're really onto something there. It's definitely true that platforms are pushing everything more and more toward mobile. And like you said, not every device is going to have a browser or an easy way to access these platforms, but almost every phone will. And that's where the apps are, that's where the easy access is, and that's how these platforms want to keep people engaged. So when you think about it that way, it really does come back full circle to the idea that content creators are the ones keeping these platforms alive, and they're doing it by reaching people where they already are, which is on their phones. So it's kind of this whole ecosystem where the platforms need the creators need to reach the audience on mobile, and the audience is mostly mobile, and it all kind of ties together. So yeah, I think it's a really interesting point, and it shows that if you're building a brand or trying to spread awareness, you really do want to focus on those mobile first strategies, and that's how you're going to keep your community alive and keep the platform alive at the same time.
So, all right, so you know, we understand that now, right? So this is what we're all theorized. This is all like, none of this is facts, right? None of this is fact. This is just my opinion, right? So, but now that we understand that, or we can conceptualize that each platform houses a different consciousness now, right? So, you know, you go to Instagram, everybody wants to see like pictures and flashy lifestyle, models, beaches, you know, they want to see great scenery. There's that. Then you know, you go over to Twitter or X, and now that's geared towards like a lot of writing and reading, and that's where a lot of politicians and politics and a lot of money, like the Bitcoin and things like that happen, you know. Then you go to TikTok. That's just a whole wave of the younger generation, just like, I don't know, it's kind of like the MySpace, you know, of today. I mean, that's just my opinion. And then, you know, YouTube, that's just like a catch-all, like for everybody that wants to make long format content. So, and I could keep going on, but you see where I'm going. Each platform houses a different consciousness. So now it's like, all right, so we're doing, so like the content creators, it's like, all right, so you create your content, you put it on this platform. It may not do many numbers over there, but you put it over here, and it does, you know, maybe 4 times, 5 times as much, you know. But it's all about putting your content on the right platform, the right device, shit at the right time on top of that, and you know, combining all that and spreading brand awareness with your message. Would you agree with that? I mean, if you think I'm wrong, you know what I'm saying, don't be scared to say you're wrong.
Oh no, I definitely agree with you on that. I think you've hit the nail on the head. Each platform does have its own personality, its own vibe, and its own audience, and it's kind of like each one is its own little world with its own consciousness, just like you said. So yeah, if you're a content creator, you kind of have to know which world your content fits into best, and sometimes it'll do great on one platform and not as great on another, and that's totally fine. It's about finding the right fit. And like you said, timing matters too. Sometimes it's about when you post and how you post, but ultimately it's all about getting your message in front of the right audience on the right platform, and yeah, I think you're spot on. There's nothing wrong with that reasoning at all.
All right, so granted everything we done talked about, right? Now you got the Web3 aspect you tie on top of it. So it doesn't matter what platform or what device, or it doesn't matter, because you have your own NFT collection and you're doing things within the Web3 space, and you're combining all that stuff together. So, I mean, the Web3, depending on how you look at Web3 and these blockchains, I mean, that's kind of a platform in itself, you know, because you could say, well, Ethereum is a platform and I put my NFTs on that platform, or you could say, well, Binance is a platform and I put my coin on Binance, and so you could say Bitcoin is a platform and I put my financial infrastructure on it, or my financial infrastructure is backed by Bitcoin. So, you know, granted, because each blockchain and each coin and each whatever, they have their own personality and consciousness, just like how compared to other platforms. So what do you think of like, what do you think of that, like comparing the blockchains to social media platforms, and then like the content creators? Because you know, if Ethereum doesn't have the bored apes, you know, or if Bitcoin didn't have Satoshi, like, you know, those are the content creators keeping those platforms alive. So like make a comparison that everybody could understand and conceptualize, like, and say and bring up some points that I haven't said too, like bring some new stuff like from out of bounds, inbounds.
Absolutely. Let's run with that analogy. So basically, if you think of each blockchain as its own kind of platform, it's a lot like thinking of each social media platform as having its own personality and its own community. So just like Instagram is one vibe and Twitter is another vibe, Ethereum is kind of its own vibe, Bitcoin is its own vibe, Binance is its own vibe, right? Each blockchain has its own culture, its own kind of crowd, and its own type of projects that thrive there. And creators in that space, the people launching NFT collections or building on those blockchains, they're the one keeping the whole ecosystem alive, just like content creators do on social media. So in that sense, if Ethereum didn't have its big name projects, it wouldn't be what it is. If Bitcoin didn't have its believers, it wouldn't be what it is. And each of those blockchains like its own little world. So I think it's a really cool comparison. And it also shows that as a creator, you can kind of pick the blockchain that fits your vibe the best, just like you pick the social platform that fits your vibe the best. So yeah, it's a neat way to look at it.
And you know, you could even go, you know, down the rabbit hole even further, and you could say, well, the NBA or the NFL, you know, that's a platform. And then if the NBA didn't have Michael Jordan as a content creator, because shooting a basketball and winning basketball games, that's content, you know, depending on how you look at it. But how I'm looking at it, it is, you know, if the NFL didn't have, you know, John Elway, you know, back in the day, or Brett Favre or Jerry Rice, you know, creating touchdowns and contents, and you know, if the NBA and the NFL wouldn't be where they are now. So let's talk about the I don't want to go too far off topic because, you know, it's supposed to be Web3, but at the end of the day, we're talking about the platforms too. Like, you know, imagine if those content creators like Michael Jordan stepped into the Web3 space and created a Web3 asset, you know, and like, what do you think of you know, the statement I said, the NBA is a platform and the NBA players are content creators? What do you think of that as a statement?
Yeah, I think that's actually a really cool way to look at it. I mean, you're totally right. If you think about the NBA or the NFL as platforms, then the players are absolutely the content creators. They're the ones who bring in the fans, they're the ones who create the excitement, and without them, those leagues wouldn't be what they are. And it's the same idea with Web3 or any other platform. The creators make the platform valuable. So if you had someone like Michael Jordan step into the Web3 space and create something there, it would be huge because he's bringing his star power and his creativity into a whole new arena. And I think that's kind of the beauty of it. Platforms are just stages, and the creators are the ones who put on the show, whether it's sports, Web3, or social media. So yeah, I think you're spot on.
Yeah, it's crazy, the just the platform aspect. Just like if you got it, just step on stage and you know, do your thing. And the platforms are pretty much the stage. So you know, me personally, I think I got it. You know, that's why I do this stuff every day. And you know, I don't know, man. I just love this shit. I love the whole platform aspect and the content creator aspect and giving your opinion, and you know, just talking and you know, just doing stuff that I don't know, revolves around these platforms. Like, it's, I don't know, it's crazy, bro. Because you know, back in the day in like the 70s or the 80s or something like that, the platforms were the newspapers, and that as a platform is really subjective to what you want to you know, how do you get on a newspaper? Like, you have to know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody, then you still got to be doing something great and blah 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 blah. Like, in today's time, the platform is very like, the platforms are not hard to get on. Like, all you have to do is make an account, and then if your content is great or if it's controversial, like, I don't know, like the algorithm will pick it up, and then like it's on you to go from there. Like, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I think you've really captured how much things have changed. I mean, it's true. Back in the day, getting on a platform was a whole different ballgame. You had to know people, you had to jump through hoops, and it was really hard just to get your foot in the door. But now, the stage is basically open to everyone. You just make an account, you put yourself out there, and if your content is good or interesting or it catches on, the algorithm will do the rest. And that's a huge shift. It really democratizes the whole process and lets more people have a voice. And yeah, it means that if you feel like you've got something to say, you can just step onto that stage and do your thing. So I think that's a really cool way to look at it, and it's definitely a big part of why this era is so exciting for creators.
All right, so with that being said, let's get a recap of everything that we've been talking about from the beginning to end. You know, the platforms, content creators, the devices, with the NFTs, the blockchain, like just everything. Like, let's just get a recap going.
Absolutely. Let's sum it all up. So we started off talking about platforms and how content creators really keep them alive. We touched on how platforms are evolving and how mobile devices are now the main way that people access content. Then we layered in the Web3 aspect and how blockchains themselves are kind of like platforms with their own communities and personalities. We talked about how each blockchain is its own world, kind of like a social media platform is its own world, and how creators make those spaces come alive. And then we even compared it to things like sports leagues, where the players are the content creators and the league is the platform. So really the big picture is that platforms have a stage, creators bring the content, and now with Web3s there's even more flexibility and opportunity to do that on a global scale. And it all ties back to how anyone can step onto that stage now and show what they've got. So that's the recap, and I think we've covered a lot of cool ground.
All right, well, thanks for the conversation today, and you know, I'll be back soon with another topic.
You're so welcome. I had a blast chatting about all this with you. Definitely come back anytime with another topic and we'll dive right in. Until then, take care and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, so there you have it, man. These platforms, content creators, the blockchain, like, it's all up for grabs. You know what I'm saying? You just gotta get in where you fit in, bring something to the table, and just see what happens. So keep cooking content. Somebody will see it eventually if you just don't stop. And with that being said, man, I'll see y'all later.